Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. This is episode 114.
Yeah.
Yeah, 114. Wow. The date is January 2nd, 2021, which still feels weird. Right? Or 12th. Oh my gosh. I totally read that wrong. January 12th. Oh boy. That's a great start. Well, you can tell where this is going to go today. I'm your host, Brett Nye, and joining me as usual, my good friend and coworker, Evan Francine. Good morning, Evan.
Good morning, man. How you doing?
Well, I think the fact that I can't read the date probably tells you a lot.
We all make mistakes, man. It
happens. Not kicked in yet.
No, and I'm here at this Cancun coffee shop, and they don't open till 9. What kind of coffee shop doesn't open till 9?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I sit outside and wait for that door to open. I'm gonna go grab something.
Oh, I guess yeah. You're an hour ahead. I was like, I couldn't wait 2 more hours for coffee, but even still, waiting another hour for coffee. Oh.
Yeah, back at the resort, they have coffee. The coffee shop opens at 7, and so I went in there on the way to walk down here. It's about a mile to walk here, and there was a huge line. I'm like, son of a gun, man. So I just screw it. I'll wait till I get here. And
I mean, by 9, you're usually like what, 4 or 5 coffees in?
Yeah, it's about lunchtime.
Right.
It sucks when you have your first cup of coffee at lunch.
Wow. Other than that, how's it going down there?
It's going well, man. Making progress on the book. We had the drama last week. This week it got my head sort of straight.
Nice.
I think we have a really good outline for the VC. I don't know what the title is going to be exactly, but it's going to be a VCSO handbook. Essentially, right. If you're not doing these things, these fundamental things in providing a VC, and the same things apply to a CISO, really. But my primary target is let's get some of these VCSOs to start doing things the right way instead of just taking a bunch of money.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, so I think we're settled in. Marlis, my wife, she got down here, I think the day after the podcast last week.
Okay, good. I meant to ask, and it got away from me, and then I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah, so she had surgery on Friday, and so she had no teeth. So I made fun of her because I can for a little bit.
I mean, it's one of the few times, right?
Right. There was a good new release for Security Studio. That was kind of exciting. I like the S2Me editions. We added threat monitoring in there, which I think is nice because security is not a one and done, right? We need people to, do your assessment, fine, start making some changes, but then come back, right? We had birds yelling at me.
Yeah, no kidding. I liked that. I thought it was really good. What's interesting is when I was looking for news, there's actually a story on the InfoSec magazine that 2/3 of people don't consider security when working from home.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. This is the year 2021, right?
How do you not do that?
Well, we come from a different perspective, and to us it comes natural. That's always been the challenge: is how do we make security fit? How do we speak the language that resonates with non-security people? And we'll keep doing this forever, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it's well, and that here, I'll throw this in the chat so you have it. But that people they're going to continue to work from remotely after this. It's not like one day everybody's going to go back into the office full time. We've seen there's a fundamental shift in how this is working, and so this has only become a bigger and bigger deal.
Right, man. And I was actually, I do it. Somehow I became part of a coffee club down here with a bunch of old geezers, and I mean that in a good
loving term.
Yeah. And they were talking to me yesterday at coffee about just fundamentals around information security. And you could see almost immediately that they were overwhelmed, but
Mhm.
they felt comfortable talking to me because I'm part of their group, right? So I became, part of their herd. But they asked some great questions about just, you know, basics. One of them had actually heard of the SolarWinds attack, and so I asked me some questions about that. Uh, I said you just really got to focus on the fundamentals. And then, one of them's a doctor. He's like, "So what are the fundamentals?" I'm like, "Funny you should ask." One, take inventory of all the stuff you have. Do you even know all the things? We've talked about this on this podcast before.
Right.
And here's some ways that, and I showed him some ways that you can do that. And I said, once you feel comfortable about the hardware stuff, you understand where that stuff is, then you want to dig into the software. I mean, what software are these things running on my iPhone? What applications am I using?
Yeah. What does they have access to?
Right. So I had him whip out his iPhone and I showed him how to check all the applications that are installed on his iPhone. And then I said, some of those applications you never use.
Mhm.
Get rid of them.
Right.
It's just more complexity. It's more things that you need to update and patch. But it was just a great discussion. And so I figured if I can resonate with, these guys are 70, I think Dick is like 81. If we can resonate with those people, why can't we get these 2/3 that aren't taking security seriously at home?
Yeah.
Because it's not just like protecting the business, but what about your family?
Well, yeah. I mean, what happens when your bank account is emptied?
Or your kids are preyed upon.
Right. Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
the internet's a dangerous place, and then this week with all the, the Twitter stuff and, the Amazon and the Parler and Google, Apple, Google, Amazon,
A lot of
Twitter, all banning, Parler. That causes a whole bunch of concern for a lot of people. And it doesn't matter if you're left or right. It's this expression of your opinion is being suppressed, right? Voices are being suppressed. I don't know, man. It's a weird 2021 ain't getting off right.
I was gonna say it's not a great start.
No.
Wow, it's crazy. Yeah, I've been really working on. We've had some VC, so the SolarWinds thing really hasn't. We're doing a bunch of threat hunting, but those are all wrapping up. We're not seeing anything um, really malicious, which is nice. It's a bit of a relief. So we're wrapping up the majority of the threat hunting. We're just gonna let some of these installs do their timeout and just keep monitoring. We have alerts set up so that if anything were to run, we would catch it. But that was a pretty big relief that there was nothing malicious that we really found.
Well, last Friday, wasn't it? Didn't Oscar and I think was it Oscar, Eric, and Pinky?
Mhm.
Didn't they do their first under the hood threat intel series on Friday?
It was yes, yeah. I wasn't able to tune in. I had meetings, unfortunately, but I believe so.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's cool to get the word out about. I had a meeting with Oscar yesterday morning, and we just talked about how impressed I am with this team. That team is growing. They just hired a new
Hmm.
tester, and I think they could probably use a couple more. I think they're booked out till April right now.
Yeah, it depends on what people are looking for. For some, I think for some things, yes.
So, that's all positive stuff. And the thing that I'm the most impressed with that team is you can teach skills to anybody, right? Not only does this team have skills, but they got scruples, man. I mean, they're a damn good team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in December, I think it was December. I can't even remember. One of his guys found basically a 0-day and one of the hardware device and reached out. They reached out, made a responsible disclosure. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty cool that it wasn't, out there anymore. And
Yeah.
immediately stopped and was like, okay, wait, we need to reach out to this company and let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So for listeners, Team Ambush is who we're talking about. That's FRSecure's technical services team. And if you Google under the hood Team Ambush or something like that, you'll find what it is I'm talking about. They do it once a month, where it's just kind of candid, open talk about the things that they're seeing in their threat hunting exercises, IRs,
Yep.
and testing. It's good stuff, man.
It's a more technical. We keep this fairly high level and don't really deep dive technically, but theirs is very much a technical discussion. So it's it's different than what we were doing.
Yeah, the geeks would like it.
Yeah. Here, I'll throw that. There's the YouTube link for that one they did last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing what that team has done. It's crazy as a company. We hired a new consultant that started in basically in the end of November, early December. I think she started the week of Thanksgiving. We're hiring pen testers and still being very busy during all this. It's pretty awesome. It's a nice feeling.
Well, I feel best about it because it's so good for our mission, right? We know that, from my perspective, I know that each and every customer that we're working with is getting good care, right? It's being done correctly. We don't take shortcuts.
Yeah,
Man, good.
I actually had a call with a potential customer yesterday afternoon that had some work done by a big firm. I'm not going to call anybody out, around implementing Office 365. And he was like, yeah, it's great. They turned it on. And then we're like, okay, here you go. And we're like, well, what should we be doing for security? And what do we do? And he said they just simply sent him some Microsoft links and said, that's not part of the statement of work. Good luck. I was like, no, that's not. Here's what you're going to get from us. And it's like, if you are working through this and 6 months from now, you're like, shoot, I don't remember what they were talking about when they on this control. Let us know. We stand by our work. We're not going to leave you hanging just because it's been 6 months. We delivered a product. And if we didn't do a good enough job, why wouldn't we take a half hour to explain it to a customer to make sure that they're able to do what they need to do?
Well, and why would you ever consider an installation done when it's not secure?
Right.
It's not done. It's supposed to be secure by design. You should know better. You don't install a firewall with, plug this shit, excuse my language, plug it in, default password, any, and say, hey, there you go. Well, how do I use it? That's not part of the engagement.
Hey, here's the checklist. Good luck.
Right? Come on.
So, yeah,
Pay your bill because they got big lawyers probably.
Yeah.
I mean, not big like big or fat, but just powerful.
A lot of them.
Yeah, with big degrees and lots of letters after their names and such.
But anyway, but yeah, other than that, I think the biggest thing, obviously, that I've been working on is CMMC. I got my registered practitioner.
Nice.
The last week of December. So it's been a couple weeks. It was. I mean, it's training on a standard. It's not exciting, but it was actually pretty. There's a lot of good information in it around what they're going to be expecting and things like that. So I think it's going to be good. So I think that'll be the topic today. We're going to talk through it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you don't know a whole lot about it other than some high level stuff, correct?
Yeah, I read it.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think maybe it'll be good. I was thinking, as we were clearly winging it, I'll just start. We'll talk about it. And if you have questions or anything, let's just have a conversation about what it looks like, what we're going to do for it, and what people can do to start preparing.
I like it, man. So what does it take to become a practitioner?
So you have to be associated with or employed with a registered or an RPO, which is a readiness basically company. So we applied for that in July, and I think we got it approved in like early December. Because they had some issues with that. So FRSecure is an RPO, we're on the marketplace. And then you have to, for being a registered practitioner, you have to go in, fill out, a little bit about yourself, submit a background check. It's just a basic one looking for, the big things. And then once that's approved, you just have to go through this training and pass the quizzes. You have to have a 80% on all of the different quizzes, and then sign a code of conduct. And it sounds easy, but it was, I think it's like 5 hours of video training plus with the test, it comes out to be about 6 hours of content for it. So
okay, so it's not like instructor led, 1 week, 2 week course or anything.
no,
You get access to videos and you watch those and take your quizzes and pass.
yeah, it's really more focused on kind of like what led to this, what's included, what do the different levels mean, what are the assessors going to be looking at, how can you prepare people for getting CMMC certified. It had, let me see, there was things like, around the DFARS and all that. There's around what the different groups are. So there's, the organization seeking certification. So that's your companies, the RPOs, the 3POWs, and then how are disputes handled? How are these different things handled? It didn't go into so much the actual content of CMMC, but more around the concept of it and how it's going to operate.
Okay, very good. So going into the certification versus now that you've been through it, do you feel better about CMMC than you did going in? About the same?
No, there was some really good information in there. There hasn't been a whole lot out there. It's still fairly new, but there was some really good stuff in terms of what this is going to look like, what the expectation is. We didn't know so what does certification mean, right? What are they going to be looking for? And so, now it's you have to go through, depending on what your level is, you have to have 2 out of 3 forms of evidence at least. So that could be documentation, testing, or interviews. So you have to have at least that, if not all 3, right? It depends on what the control is and how good the auditor or assessor feels about it. And the other big thing is you have to interview the person directly responsible for the day-to-day in and out of whatever it is. So if you're looking at endpoint protection, CIO can't be the one being interviewed unless he's actually doing the work. They're going to want to talk to the sysadmin or the help desk or whoever. And it's at the lead auditor's discretion if they allow anyone but the person they're interviewing in the room during the interview. So it's very much there's a lot of confidentiality around it, and they don't disclose the contents of those interviews as they are private. And so
You can't disclose the contents of the interview even with like the CIO.
right. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they won't is what they said. So
but how about you as the RPO?
Oh, as the RPO, we're going to be helping. So we're going to, it would be more trying to coach people up.
Okay.
So that when they go into those interviews, they have what's necessary to be successful.
Okay.
Right.
And so the 3POW then, when the 3POW engages, they interview, say, the sysadmin one-on-one, and the CIO wants to know what's discussed in that interview, they can't share that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to go back and double check. I think they could, if there was something that was like, like an actual threat, like the sysadmin said, he's actively undermining it or something, but
Right.
they're under no obligation to share it.
Wow,
By
that's
default,
interesting.
they won't. By default, they're not going to share the information disclosed in the interviews.
All right, so today, who needs to be CMMC certified?
So right now, there's very few, but ultimately, at the end of the day, anybody that has a federal contract information (FCI) with the Department of Defense will have to have some level of CMMC. And this was the part that surprised me is, and because I hadn't thought of this, but he's like, yeah, that chicken farmer that supplies chickens for the military, they're going to have to be CMMC level 1 certified. The
Right.
janitorial service, and you don't think of those people, all the different farmers, all these really kind of what you would consider information security, or you wouldn't necessarily think about being in the DoD supply chain, but it's going to be pretty wide ranging.
Yeah, and so I would assume, if you are one of those organizations that has an FCI with the DoD,
Mhm.
it may not be coming right away, but you'll need to become CMMC certified at some point.
Right. Yeah. In fiscal year 2026, every DoD contract will have a CMMC requirement.
By the when?
By 2026, every single DoD contract will have CMMC requirements.
Okay.
They're going to ramp up to it over the next couple of years. I think the big jump kind of this year to next year is kind of a slow ramp up, and then it goes up a little bit in 2023, and then the jump from 2023 to 2024 is pretty significant.
Okay. And so as a business, if I have one of those FCIs, I know that CMMC is coming. My other my other choice as a business is to not do business with the DoD, right?
Right. And yeah, basically. And I have a feeling, I don't have any proof of this or any evidence, but my gut feeling is, as this deploys and gets spread, I wouldn't be surprised to see other government entities start to adopt this requirement. Why wouldn't they? Right?
Sure.
Federal contract information, and then the controlled unclassified information. Yeah, why wouldn't you start putting a standard in place to protect it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there are so many standards. I think the big challenge with, and that's one of the things, one of the points I make in the book too is, I mean, there's so many standards, right?
Well,
You get
yeah,
CIS, NIST SB 800-53, ISO, DFARS. I mean, there's just so many. What people struggle with is how.
yeah. Well, and I think I will be honest. I'm pretty impressed with how this is rolling out in terms of, hey, you've got these RPOs that their sole focus is helping you prepare for it, and there's a marketplace for it on the government website. So, if you get one of those, if you hire one of those people, they should be pretty good, right? They've signed the code of conduct, and there's all kinds of things around how, if you're the OSC, the organization seeking certification, if you feel like somebody is doing it wrong or is being unethical, how to report them. So they've got a lot of some pretty good controls in place. They also have the requirement, you can either help with readiness and coaching or consulting, or you can do the assessment. You cannot do both, no matter what. Even the same entity cannot do both, even if it's two different business units or whatever. Nope.
I love that. That part I really dig.
Yep. The one caveat to that is, if you're the 3POW that will be doing the assessment, you can do a readiness assessment, like a gap assessment, but it cannot include any advice. So it would be literally like going in and basically doing a mock one and saying, okay, here you pass failed, here's your report. But you can't provide any documentation, any training, any consulting. And if you do, you risk basically losing your certification.
Right. That's cool, man. So can you see us maybe building a readiness assessment within Security Studio?
So I am almost done with the readiness assessment workbook. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that it would make sense to do a CMMC specific thing where, because like I said, you have to collect actual information, you have to document who you interviewed, and I could see where that would be like a great tool for any of those organizations that are looking for it, to be able to pull that up when the auditors are there and say, look, here's everything we need, here's our evidence. It really would give them a very organized approach. And anytime you look in with auditors, the more organized and easier you can make their life, the easier they're going to make yours.
Exactly. Well, I'm just thinking too that customers should like, so would you call them an OSC?
Yeah, organization seeking certification.
Okay, so an OSC, first step I assume is you want to do that readiness assessment, right?
Yeah, I think our approach is going to be, so we've mapped the S2 org to all 5 levels of CMMC. Now, realistically, I mean, probably I would guess 90% are going to be level 3 or below, at least, if not more. So, level 4 and 5s are going to be a kind of a one-off. So we're really focusing on those 1 through 3s. That's really going to be the biggest group. So yeah, you could do a readiness on your own. You don't have to be CMMC certified to do it. I think the benefit with working with, FRSecure or another RPO, whoever it may be, is all these little nuances that maybe you don't realize, or looking at that evidence and going, no, that doesn't actually meet that requirement. It would be worth it to do that. But we've mapped it. It's a snapshot in time, I guess, right? It would kind of be like a high level readiness. Where are we at? What are we missing? Because when we do that, we're not necessarily digging in and requiring and doing testing on that. It's an assessment to see where are you at, where are your risk levels, and then dig in from there, right?
Yeah.
So that'll give you an idea of where it starts. So from our standpoint, we're going to start using that as all right, we know you're going to need to be level 1, and of the 17 controls, 15 of them don't fully satisfy it. All right, let's start working on this. And then once we get to a point where feel like, yeah, we've got everything in place and we're in good shape, now let's do that deep dive gap assessment and actually collect the evidence that you've created and interview the right people and basically do kind of a mock of what's going to happen when the assessors come, and make sure that the evidence does meet it. The other thing is, they say you have to have a significant period of time for the evidence. So
how long is that usually?
So good question. They didn't really define that. To me, it would be at least 6 months, if not a year, of evidence that it's there, because the words he used was, it has to be shown it's part of the company culture. So if they come in and you have a control in place that's been there, or policy that's been in place for a month prior to the assessment, when the 3PAL comes in, that's probably that shouldn't qualify.
Okay.
Right. The other thing is you have a 90-day. So a couple things. Unlike DFARS, you cannot have a plan of action milestones. You cannot have a gap. You have to have everything or you fail. You do have a 90-day window for remediation, and that is focused on primarily things like, hey, the person that's responsible for this is out on leave, so you can't interview them, or we don't have this evidence because they would be able to provide it to you. That would be like kind of the exception to be able to say, okay, 30 days later, the person's available, here's our evidence, and still show that significant period of time. If your gaps are lack of documentation and you create that in that 90-day window, that's not going to fly because it's not ingrained in company culture.
Right.
So,
It is really important then, if you're planning on doing business with the DoD or already are doing business and you want to keep it, that you get started
like
now.
now,
Yeah, you don't want to get started, 3 months before you need to be certified.
yeah, it's
Who's going to tell you that you need to be certified?
the government contract. It's
Okay.
explicitly it'll say, here, this has CMMC requirements, and then, anybody that accesses this must have level 1, level 2, level 3, 4, or 5. So, you have to assume if you have any sort of government contract, you're level 1 minimum, right? That's just the expectation. If you sign a government contract with the DoD, expect to have a minimum of level 1. If you have any controlled unclassified information, you're gonna be level 3. That is, you have to assume that by default. Now, obviously, they're not going to enforce all that until 2026 with every contract, but I mean, that's the reality, is that you need to start thinking that way.
Right. And, and I've read the CMMC, I've read the controls and the requirements. And I mean, a lot of it's good business practice, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do live in a digital age when, I mean, it's okay to do it too early. You don't have to wait till the last minute.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now you're supposed to be self-certifying with DFARS regardless.
Right. Which,
and so the thing is, if you're self-certifying with DFARS and have a breach and they come in and you find out you've lied, they're going to come after you as the False Claims Act. So it's payment is treble damages 3 times the contract value plus a penalty of $11,000 per claim. So in the fiscal year ending in September of 2019, the Department of Justice obtained more than $3 billion in settlements and judgments involving fraud and false claims against the government. So not really worth
messing around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, eventually the stuff is going to catch up to you anyway, right? I mean,
Right.
either you're going to get hacked out of business or the government will put you out of business.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't mess around with it. So yeah, getting started now is probably the best thing.
Right. So I'm a business. I want to get started. I know that this is going to be affecting me. Where should I go? Is there a website?
Yep. Yeah. So it's the CMMC-AAB.gov, I believe.
Okay.
And then there's a click or a link there on their main page for there it is, for the marketplace. So I'm sorry, CMMCAD.org. And then there's a you click on that and there's a link for a marketplace, and then you can determine if you want who you're looking for. You can look up the registered practitioners, you can look up the RPOs, you can look up the 3 POWs. So I would start with an RPO, right? Those are the ones that are dedicated to helping you prepare.
Yeah, I'm guessing most organizations. The one thing I would put off till the last minute, just personally, would be the certification. I would do all the preparation and everything else and get everything else squared away. I'd do probably a couple of mock certification interviews with my RPO or something before, bringing that 3 PAL in.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. The thing is, you don't have to be CMMC certified to bid on an RFP that has CMMC requirements. You simply have to be certified at the time the contract is awarded. Okay. So if you've done all the work, yeah, why not wait till you know that you're going to get the contract to get that certification? But you better be darn sure you're going to get the certification.
Well, and there's nothing wrong either. I think probably on that website or in other places, and maybe we have something too. And, you can do your own readiness assessment just to get a feel for what is this thing,
Hmm.
how far away am I? There's nothing wrong with doing that, and then engage an RPO to really, because that's kind of the step I think I would take. I would go first, what the hell is it, right? Figure that out.
Yeah.
Do a self-assessment myself with my own staff because it's a good exercise for us to go through anyway. And then I'd engage an RPO, do another self-assessment with the RPO, and then kind of go the coached
Sure.
way from there.
Yeah, if you have staff that can do that, absolutely. I have a
Yeah.
feeling that there's a large number of organizations that are going to have CMMC requirements that do not have, the capability or the expertise to do that. And
Right.
I think that's good. And that's going to be a huge underserved market, or percent of what we consider an underserved market right now. Like I mentioned, how many security firms are helping out farmers?
Right.
You know, we've got a couple of co-ops that we work with, but I can tell you from experience, security is not a top priority for them.
No, no, and honestly, it's not a top priority for most businesses, and it probably shouldn't. It just needs to be a priority, right?
Yeah, true. It's something that a lot of places are not thinking about at all. And that's going to change pretty significantly.
Yeah. So okay. Uh, all right. So CMMC, it's coming. It's already here. So practitioners. So if I want to say I'm a security person and I'm interested, I want to get in on this game. The first thing I need to do is go get a job with a RPO or a 3PAL, right?
Yep, correct. Yeah, yeah. And I like that. So you're not going to have single people floating around there. There's going to be I mean, it's a fairly big investment. I think it was like $5,000 for us to apply as a company.
Okay.
Which isn't a huge number, but it's still showing you're making a commitment to this,
Right. For
right?
sure.
As opposed to $500 for an RP, for the registered practitioner, right?
Right.
That isn't as nearly as big a commitment. Anybody, well, generally speaking, anybody could go and pay $500, but now if you're working with a company that's doing that, I think that it adds some credence.
Yeah. And if you're advising customers, say you're a security consulting company or a security consultant, and you don't work for an RPO or a 3PAL, it's still important for you to get, kind of acclimated and understand CMMC.
Yeah,
You may have clients that will need it. And there's nothing wrong with you consulting them. There's nothing wrong with you, you know, giving them some advice. You just
right.
can't the same level that an RPO or a 3PAL can.
Correct. Right. There's no requirement to work with anybody certified by the CMMC accreditation body. There's to do readiness for this. The benefit is, that anybody listed on that marketplace has gone through the training and has signed the code of conduct, knows what's going to be expected, and has gone through training and made that commitment.
Right. Well, and I think it's important to work with an RPO as well because the RPOs probably have some relationships with the 3PALs.
Yeah.
They don't now, they will as they can, keep going down this path. And like you said, certain auditors like things a certain way. It's not
Hmm.
bending rules by any means or anything like that. It's just I like it packaged this way. Well, if you
Right.
put an auditor who's a human being in a good mood and make their job easy, the questions are a little bit easier. I mean, it's just the way it works.
Right. Right. And it doesn't mean they're not going to be looking at the same thing. It's just that, yeah, like you said, it's how they phrase questions and dig in and kind of twist the knife at times. Maybe
Yeah.
they don't do that, right? They say, okay, yeah, you've got that, good.
Yeah. So I can certainly see the benefit of working with an RPO. I can see why the 3PAL is, they're the ones that are going to be signing off at the end of the day that you're either doing it or not. And I assume that they're the ones that are also going to be held accountable if the company wasn't doing what the 3PAL said that they were doing, right?
Oh yeah, it's it as a 3PAL. Let me see. I have it.
What does 3PAL stand for?
Certified Third Party Assessor Organization. So I just dropped the C. It's just the 3PAL. It's just easier.
I get it.
There's a whole bunch of things around with ethical requirements and things like that. And so the way that this will work is the
Right.
3PAL.
I was getting a little choppy.
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, the video was making it choppy here.
Okay, well I'll turn mine off too then.
No, you're good. I'm gonna turn mine back on again as soon as it gets better.
Oh, okay. All right, turn it back on. So the way it'll work is the 3PAL do the assessment. You have a lead assessor. The team can be, anywhere from one person to as many as it takes to have the expertise for whatever the scope is for certification. Then the 3PAL will do an internal QA on it, submit it to the CMMC AB. The CMMC AB will then do a QA on that and either agree or disagree with it. But there's a path for organizations to submit allegations to the CMMC AB, and then on the flip side, if the CMMC AB QA process finds that a 3PAL is not getting the right evidence or things like that, they can lose their certification.
All right. I like that accountability.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I think, it'll be interesting to see and kind of track who's approved, who's not approved, who loses because they're not doing it right. You have things where it's like PCI where they've gone after some of these companies, and now those companies are under additional scrutiny on every single rock they turn in. Well, is that going to happen here? And is it going to be tagged in the marketplace like it is on the PCI Council site?
Right. And so when is the first certification expected? Has it already been done?
No, it's this year. I haven't seen I don't think any of them have been awarded yet. There's only going to be 15 contracts from the DoD with CMMC requirements issued this year.
Okay.
So I haven't seen when those will be awarded at this point.
Right.
But again, I wouldn't wait because you're going to have evidence.
Right. And if it's got to be part of your culture and you got to demonstrate that, you have to have that long-term 6 month, 1 year plus sort of like, this is the way we do things kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And I think a lot of people are going to get caught up with that, because people do wait till the last minute, and that's going to suck. You heard it here. Don't do it.
Yep. No. And I've had a high level conversation with our, sales team, and it's like, guys, tell them not to wait. If you're talking to people, this has to be ingrained, and they have to have evidence. It's like, I kind of see it as a combination of sort of a PCI and SOC 2 type 2. PCI in terms of it's got fairly prescriptive requirements as opposed to a SOC 2 where you write and say, hey, here's how I'm meeting this. But SOC 2 in terms of having to show evidence over the course of a 6 to 12 month window. So it's kind of a mix of the two is kind of my feel on how these assessors are going to be looking at things.
That's cool, man. All right, so people have questions. They can you can always email the show. You can email anybody at FRSecure. You can email me if you want. It'll be forever before you get a response, but
yeah. And
we want to make sure that anybody who's confused with this can reach out and get answers.
Yep, absolutely. And we have already got several companies that are going, okay, well, what does this mean? So it's good. We've got 3 more people that are signing up, and we'll be going through the training here over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think. A couple of them are doing it next week, and then a couple weeks out. So we'll have 4 registered practitioners, and the requirement is 1.
Okay.
An RPO. You have to have one person employed that's under contract that's a registered practitioner. So we'll have 4. We're going to eventually, depending on, the business demand for it, we're prepared to get everybody on our consulting team certified if the demand is there.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, it's good. I think even if you're not doing the actual RPO work, if you're doing vCISO work, it's good to know this, right?
Yeah,
So you keep your head up.
absolutely. And like I said, I don't have any evidence of it, but my gut feel is you're going to start seeing other organizations within the government and maybe even private entities looking at the CMMC as a requirement.
Yeah. Well, and if you do it right and you really do make it part of your culture, that's the most cost-effective way to do it, right? You'll recover those costs over time, you'd think.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like I tell people, I'd rather help you out proactively, even if it costs us a little bit of extra hours versus what we thought it would take, rather than have you have an incident 6 months later and go, well, you guys, I didn't understand what you told me. But how does that help, right? So yeah, let's be proactive and help people be doing the right thing. It's going to be cheaper long run.
Do you think FRSecure has any plans to do like a webinar on this?
I don't know. Like I said, I've only had this for a couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll do something around it as things ramp up.
Yeah.
But I need to work with Alex and marketing on what our stuff will be, and I think it'll come out of that.
Yeah, because just knowing people, the easier we make it for them to find the information and the clearer we are in the way we communicate it, I think the better off everybody's going to be, because people are going to put it off, and they'll find any excuse to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think I like that, knowing that, right? I like the fact that they are requiring a significant period of time, right? And we'll have to see what that ends up fleshing out as. But to me, I would say at least 6 months.
Right. Well, and it would just, it always breaks my heart when you sit across the table from somebody and you have to tell them the bad news that, yeah, you're not, in this case, you're not going to get that government contract.
Right. I mean,
why? We got the best product at the best price. Yeah, but you waited too long.
Right. And how many businesses could survive that? Right. That happens to.
Not many. It's like incident. I hate when I sit across the table from somebody in an incident and they're going to be going out of business.
Right. Yeah, it's no fun.
No, man. So please listen to us. We'll give you all kinds of free advice. We'll give you all kinds of free, anything we can give you for free.
I mean, yeah, go to FRSecure.com/resources. There's a ton of free stuff out there already. Like, take advantage of this. We're here to try and help.
Well, good, man. I'm glad that we've got some authoritative knowledge on CMMC, because I agree with you. It's just going to get more and more popular.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be sort of ahead of the curve a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll say this: it doesn't feel like a money grab like some of the other private certifications do.
Like HITRUST? Oh, did I say that out loud?
There's others as well.
Let's see. I can think of some more.
But
yeah. When I get it, man. I mean, we all got to play well in the sandbox together.
But yeah, I think that this approach aligns much better with our philosophy and how we do things than HITRUST did. I mean, and that's not just being discouraged or whatever towards HITRUST. It's just they didn't align with our philosophy. That happened.
I will be disparaging of HITRUST, but you don't have to be.
There you go. All right.
The personal opinion.
Yes.
Not the opinion of FRSecure or any other company that I run.
So anyway, I think that was a good discussion. Want to talk some news real quick?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All right. So interesting enough, there's now been a third malware strain discovered as part of that SolarWinds attack.
What?
I know. This is now called Sunspot, which attackers use to inject the Sunburst backdoor code into the vendor's Orion platform without setting off internal alarms. Sunspot worked by sitting on a SolarWinds build server and monitoring running processes for instances of msbuild.exe, which is part of the Microsoft Visual Studio tools. And if it saw Orion was being built, it would hijack the operation to insert Sunburst, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty, I mean, it is definitely a very, very sophisticated attack. There's no question about that.
Yeah, it's state sponsored, and yeah, man. I mean, there's some serious resources behind this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I guess it has been attributed to Russia at this point.
Well, and you know, and I was telling, this was another conversation that came up in that with the old geezers was, you know, about SolarWinds, and you know, and I posed the question, I'm like, who is the best? Who's the best in the world at chess? And they said, well, the Russians. I said, this is a chess game,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've already anticipated our moves. It wasn't a mistake that FireEye found it. The Russians didn't make a mistake.
No.
They intended for FireEye to find it so that they would do their next move.
Yeah, I would agree that that's a very much a realistic take on it.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. There's more to come on that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be probably, I mean, it may be years before we truly know everything. I would say that it's going to be months before we have at least a good handle on it.
Right. And you know, and the thing is, in those years that it takes for us to get our handle on this one, there will have already been 2 or 3 or 5.
What's the next? Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
We're losing ground, brother.
So next one is off. So that was off informationsecurity-magazine.com. The next one is from Naked Security by Sophos. Google Titan security keys hacked by French researchers. So Google Titan key, this is like a YubiKey. So you don't have to remember passwords, and it makes things more secure, and you don't, you know, it basically gives different data for authentication every time there's you do it. So that's good. However, they figured out a way to breach it for electromagnetic snooping. So, you know, it's not a very practical attack. You know, you have to have very specialized equipment that they say costs about $10,000. You know, you have to have access to the key. So, you know, and if you open up the key, it's going to be pretty well destroyed. They need to have, you know, they had to heat up the key with a heat gun so they could open it. Then you need a corrosive chemical to actually dissolve the plastic coating on the secure chip inside. You know, and then you have to perform 6,000 digital signature calculations inside the chip to collect enough data, which takes about 6 hours. So, you know, the biggest thing would be, you know, is there a significant risk to this? Realistically, probably not. But I think, you know, it's something that hopefully they fix in future releases of these keys.
Yeah, man. And it's like most of these, you know, the initial attack does require all the sophisticated equipment and everything else, but.
Oh, uh-oh, we lost you, Evan.
To
Oh,
less.
we lost.
Yeah, it would be good for them to fix it. Oh,
Are you back?
it's Mexican Wi-Fi. Yeah, Mexican Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you know, it happens. Last year we blamed it on, was it Fortnite? This year it's Among Us, all the people using it.
Well, there's not even anybody here. It's just, crappy Mexican telco.
But yeah, like you were starting to say, it cut out, but the first proof of concept, it requires all this stuff, but once that proof of concept is out there, it's only a matter of time before somebody figures out and takes it and makes it so that all these additional steps aren't required.
Exactly. They make the attack vectors a lot more efficient.
Yep. So
Good stuff. Good find on that one.
yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. The last one I have is on Krebs on security, sealed U.S. court records exposed in the SolarWinds breach. Judicial branch said it is now deploying more stringent controls for receiving and storing sensitive information following the discovery that its own systems were compromised. So yeah, it looks like there were, that could be, I can't imagine what is in some of those sealed court records, and who does that open up for blackmail or other things, and not to mention just the public impact or public relations hit of something being released.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's stored in those systems, but I do know that in my own work with lawyers on cases, a lot of non-confidentiality agreements and all kinds of other things. Confidence and
yeah, it said they're working with Homeland Security, but the case management electronic case files greatly risk compromising highly sensitive non-public documents, particularly sealed filings. So what does that exactly mean? Could that be evidence and whatever? Who knows? But this would definitely be, there's probably a lot of really like I said, information that could be used for blackmail or other purposes. So fun times there. And then the third one I put in there is from information, or fourth one was Information Security Magazine, 2/3 of employee security at home. So, we'll get those links out. Evan has lost his Wi-Fi. So with that, I think we will go ahead and wrap up episode 114 of the UNSECURITY podcast. I have to pull up my notes to make sure I get all the correct information here at the end as I stall, see if Evan makes it back.
I think I'm back.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Another garbage man walking by me.
Any shout outs for you?
I'm going to give a shout out to, shoot, man, there's so many good people. Damn it. I'll give a shout out to you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to you because I think you're doing good stuff, man. It's neat that you're leading the CMMC. I'm excited to get this book done with you. Just really like all the stuff I see from you and all that good stuff. And I'm glad your labyrinthitis is pretty much gone and you're back to normal.
Yep, basically 1 week left to clear for sure. Haven't had an issue for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So fingers crossed. I think for me, it's all the consultants that volunteered to do the registered practitioner training. I know there was more. The 3 that were selected, Victoria, Ryan, and Sean, shout out to them for going through that as well and being willing to do that and take on new things. But shout out to the others that also volunteered, and we'll get them certified as well. All right, so that'll be it for episode 114. Thank you to all our listeners. You can send us things by email at unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you're the social type, you can socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Brad Nye and Evan is at Evan Francine. And lastly, be sure to follow Security Studio at Studio Security and FRSecure at FRSecure for the more things that we do. That's it, and we will talk to everyone again next week.